Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am so excited. 2024 has been really a year for the record books on so many levels. I think personally, we've all just kind of been going through it. And I think that we all want a little bit of hope for 2025, that it's going to change, it's going to be better. But I'm not so sure about that quite yet. So today I've got my wonderful friend, Asha. Here, she is an incredible astrologer. She really brought me into the world of astrology, what, 4 or 5 years ago now. And
I can't
it's
believe
been
it's been that long.
incredible. Yeah, you know what? Astrology has always been sort of a part of it's always like in the periphery of spirituality, but I've never been able to actually understand it and then apply it until I met you, which was really incredible. So, today, we've got the top 10 astrology predictions for 2025. We're going to be talking about the energy, sort of what to expect, how to place yourself in it. And what's really exciting is I am officially bringing Asha in to the EA family, and she is going to be our resident astrologer for 2025. So, if you enjoy this video and you want to see more of her astrology readings and predictions, she does one-on-one sessions as well, and she will also be doing monthly astrology predictions for our membership. So head on over to elizabethapril.com for the monthly astrology prediction. Moving into 2025. And so I kind of wanted to, I guess, give us a little overview on astrology, on who you are, on, you know what I mean? Like what brought you here, and then we'll just dive right in.
Yeah, I will give a Cliff's Notes version because I can take 30 minutes to talk about just the simplest thing. I really discovered astrology like 10, 11, lost count at this point, years ago, because I was naturally a skeptic.
Mm.
So I started to, I actually had my first astrology reading with somebody else, and I went in there very skeptical, and I was like kind of like, yeah, we'll see what what you can figure out. And this person just like read me to filth. And I was like, how could this person know these things about me? So I just like I needed to understand how they knew the things that they did. And so I went down a rabbit hole of like, I need to read everything about this and learn everything about this. So it started off as skepticism. And then as I read more, I was like, oh, that's interesting, but I still didn't quite believe. And then when I started to like apply it more in my everyday life, it was getting increasingly harder to ignore over and over and over the merit behind it. There's a reason why, like, even now on the news, you hear like whether people talk about Mercury retrograde and all this other stuff. It's not just because it's trendy, it's because people are noticing that like the way the planets shift do affect us. So more people, it's not that like people are talking about it because it's trendy. Maybe some people are on like TikTok, but it's also because more people are waking up to the fact that like there's a reason why we can feel these planetary shifts when they happen. And I think for me also, the other side of that was I'm naturally a very impatient person. And I think when I started to not just unpack my own astrology, but unpack the astrology of like my friends, my family members, my clients and stuff, it gave me a lot more like empathy and compassion and patience with people when like they didn't, behave the way that like I would behave about something. And I would kind of look at their chart and I'd be like, okay, this makes sense. Like this is part of like what shows up in their astrology, and this is why they're behaving this way right now. Or this is like I just had a lot more patience and understanding with people once I figured out more about them through their astrology.
Amazing. And once again, you've helped me so much. And one thing that Asha's really good at is something called transits. I don't really know what that means, but essentially it's big life changes. So if you're someone who's starting a new business, or you're 28 and you're about to go through your Saturn retrograde, wait, what is it called? Saturn.
Saturn,
Sorry, yeah, Saturn
Saturn.
returns. That once again, not my thing, but it's so helpful to understand where your planets are, a new relationship. So just know you can reach out to Asha on her website and just give us your website.
Oh, it's asharose.com, but it's spelled ASYAROSE.com. And I
Perfect. And
just
we'll,
just really quick to pick
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just really quick, just sometimes it's not that you can't launch a business always or do all these things always in your life, but there are seasons that are more favorable and more opportunistic and stuff. So we can see all those things in your birth chart as well, which is what you were talking
Amazing.
about with the
And we'll put
transits.
all your social media links, your website links, everything in the description. So check that out. And let's talk about 2025. So I just want to like give you, and I haven't done my own prediction video quite yet, so I'll be doing that shortly. But one thing that I keep picking up on for 2025, so I wanted to sort of generally talk about this, and then I want to dive into the top 10 predictions. Something that I've been picking up on is the people who it feels like 2024 presented a lot of opportunities to everyone, spiritual or not, to change, to like listen and change. It could have been a freak accident. It could have been a health crisis, could have been a failing business, could have been a financial thing. Usually it's bad things, okay, in 2024. A lot of challenges. And I've been going through it. I've noticed other people going through it. I've been trying to learn as much as possible and like clear that karma and like move forward. But I just keep seeing people sort of doing the same thing, going through the same cycle, hitting the same walls, but not really learning or breaking through. So, sort of something that I've picked up on is the people who have not been listening, the people who continue to push back, the people who do not decide to change. It just feels like 2025 is going to really hit them. Like, I just feel like there's going to be a little bit of the rug being pulled from underneath them. And I know you tell me all the time like constant texts of like, you're like, I know that you don't know astrology, but everything you just said in your video aligns to like all of the astrology right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like, that's great validation for what I'm just naturally picking up on. And this is why I love this combo of information. So I don't know, like, is there astrology backing this sort of feeling like if you haven't shown up in 2024 and done the work, it's just going to get worse in 2025. Just sort of maybe briefly mention, yeah.
Y- Yes. Yes and no, but also yes. I'm trying to sugarcoat things, but I'm like, I'm not a sugarcoater type of person.
Mhm.
Um, so next year, I've been saying that like 2023 was a build up to 2024, and 2024 is definitely a build up to 2025. So next year, the way that because I also interpret the planets maybe a little bit differently than some other people, the way I'm interpreting is there's going to be such a split shift in the energy.
Mm,
You know how like and I want to tread lightly with how I say this. You know how like there's in third world countries or certain not even third world countries in a lot of countries there's not even a middle class.
mm,
There's like you're either like really wealthy or you're really poor, right? Like you're really
mhm.
in poverty. I think next year is going to look very similar but energetically.
Okay.
I don't mean about money, so please don't misinterpret what I'm saying, but I mean about energetically, there's going to be such an extreme split between
Mhm.
like people that are going to be like leveling up in their life and manifesting and like things are just going to be
Mm,
taking off left and right. And then people that are like in bigger ways than they even thought was possible. And then people that are going to be like rock bottomed in bigger ways than they thought was possible. I don't, and I know this is a bold prediction to put out there, but I don't think there's going to be like a middle and an in between. I
okay.
think it's going to be a very extreme year of like extremes in one way, but also extremes in another way, kind of similar to like 2020, where most people were like rock bottomed and got hit very hard with 2020, but there were also people that like their careers took off more than ever before. They made more money. Like some people were like, I lost my job and then I started posting stuff
Mhm.
on TikTok and now I'm a millionaire, right? Like because they lost like some people like actually did better in their life in 2020. Most people didn't, but some people did. So I think next year is going to be like a bigger iteration of that, of just extremes on both sides. We're not going to really see like people in the middle as much anymore. I think people are going to be pushed in like one direction or the other.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm
Okay.
confirming what you're saying
Okay,
essentially.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I immediately just think family. Like just if that's the case, we've already seen the divide, but it's like the people we love and who are closest to us, like if you haven't already lost all your friends, if you haven't already had the conflicts in family, like just watch out. And that's some of the stuff that I've been picking up on too, as far as the tools that we need for 2025. And I'll be talking about that in my own prediction video. So thank you
Yeah.
for confirming that. Let's go ahead and dive into your list of predictions. Like, You've been studying the planets for 2025 for the last few months now, and you've been deep
Yeah.
diving. So give us a little sort of summary. What's
Yeah.
your first thing that you're picking up on?
One is definitely like empowerment for
Mm,
sure. People taking their power back is going to be a big one. And a lot of that may look like increased revolution,
mhm,
increased rebellion, but not rebellion for the sake of fuck the man, right? Like rebellion with a purpose behind it, right? So, um, there's a lot of things, the astrology last year, Pluto was in Capricorn and Aquarius. This is a planet of change, transformation, metamorphosis. And it's also a catalyst planet where it exposes the truth and exposes what's hidden. It was dipping in and out between like what I like to say two different pools, like the
mhm,
old pool versus the new pool, the old pool versus the new pool. So the whole year in 2024, we've kind of felt like we're not quite in the new yet. We're kind of back in the old. We're getting a taste of the new, but we don't really know. Like it was a lot of back and forth in and out. Like we haven't fully like we've outgrown I was saying this all year. We've outgrown the old versions of ourselves. We haven't fully like dove into the new versions of ourselves either yet. It's kind of like this own personal metamorphosis that we're all in as well. And a lot of this is about like showing us where we've been giving our power away to other people, to
mhm,
corporations, to governments, to banks, to systems and things outside of us. Well, I can't do that because so and so says something. I can't do that because my parents said that. I can't do that because religion says this. I can't do that because my boss says this. I can't do that because the bank says this. And so
mhm,
a lot of the energy that is only just starting next year and will continue to build over the next several years is people taking their power back and being like, nope, I have autonomy over my own life. I can do whatever I want.
mhm.
And in fact, so this can be really empowering for a lot of people, but this is going to be great for the people that need empowerment.
Yep.
For the people that are very happy with the way things are right now, this is going to feel very disruptive.
Yeah. And I think we can all look at the presidential election and agree that
Yeah.
there's going to be disruption
Mhm.
because he is the disruptor. And I think the people who have been in power, they're scared. They're sweating in their boots right now. So that makes a lot of sense. And that actually backs up sort of the first stage of spiritual awakening that I put in my first book, which is question everything. When you start to feel a little bit trapped, the first thing you do is, okay, well, why am I trapped? Who am I? Who do I want to be? Who's trapping me? And when you start to question everything, you really start to break through that matrix. So I am excited for that. The matrix breakdown and the matrix breakthrough. So let's go. Awesome. Okay. Love that first prediction. Let's go to the second.
Yeah. So actually, to piggyback off of what you just said, that kind of
Mhm.
goes into my next prediction.
Cool.
So we have another planet. So essentially, all of the planets, like when one planet switches signs, we feel its effect, which is what we felt this year when one planet switched.
Mhm.
Next year, we're going to have like 4 or 5 planets all switch, not just signs, but elements in general.
Mhm. Wow.
So previously we were in a lot of earth and water energy. Earth and water. Earth likes to take, it's like fixed, rooted, grounded, right? It likes to take its time making decisions. It's all about like analysis, analytical, rational, practical. I'm going to think things through before I make a decision, right?
Mhm.
Water signs and water elements like to ride the wave of the emotions before they make a decision, right? And then they decide something.
Mhm.
So we've been in this collective energy of like taking our time with things, even if we've been taking action, like maybe we've been thinking about it for a long time before we finally take action, right? Next year, all of the planets are collectively moving into from earth and water to air and fire. This
Wow.
is a big deal because the element shift is going to feel huge energetically, spiritually, intuitively, externally, all of the ways, right? Fire is quick moving, things go ablaze, and air is also quick moving, right? Wind moves very quickly, but also air spreads fire. So,
Mhm.
what I've been saying repeatedly over and over again is things are going to move so much faster.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're not going to have the like things that used to take years are going to take months. Things that used to take months are going to take weeks. Things that
Mhm.
used to take weeks are going to take days. So we're also not going to have the luxury to unpack things and process and think about it for 6 months or a year before finally making a decision. We're going to have to be like more quick moving, more like rational, more rational, practical, but also intuitive at the same time. And we'll get into that a little bit later, like
Mm.
why I'm mentioning that. But we're just going to have to make decisions in a faster pace. So for the people, again, that like to take their time with things, this could
Mhm.
feel a little bit disruptive. For the
Right.
people that are already naturally impulsive,
Yeah.
okay, this could have the opposite effect of like when you
Right.
think about fire and now you're pouring gasoline on top of the fire, right? Suddenly they're almost too impulsive, too
Right.
reactionary, too,
Hmm.
like, oh, and suddenly they have to go backwards. Oh shit, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see both sides of like
Okay.
people being forced out of their comfort zone to make decisions in a quicker timeline that they're maybe used to, but
Mm.
also pe people being a lot more impulsive than they're maybe used to.
Right.
And that could also backfire. So it's about finding the balance between the two. When you're in an energy that puts so much pressure on you to decide things quickly, you may not always make the right decision.
Hmm. Yeah, because I was immediately thinking, I'm like, oh, well, fire and air signs are really going to flourish. But just like you said, there could actually be, especially with the fire signs, just more outbursts, more emotion, more impulsivity, just everything amplified. Whereas the water and the earth signs could be more like, okay, now it's you really got to get out of
Now
your
they feel
comfort zone.
fiery. The water and earth signs are gonna be like, oh, I feel fire now. Now I know what this is like.
Yeah, I'm
And the
the
fire signs are like, well, I
motivation.
have more fuel to be even more fiery.
You know
Right.
what? But that's what I feel like. Yeah, even 2024 for me as a water sign, it's been like, oh my God, I need to just melt on the bed like for the entire afternoon versus some days I get up and I'm like, boom, like I am so motivated all day to do all the things. And like you said, 2024, we got a little bit of both of these transitional energies. So that's good. I think everyone who's sort of lacking in some motivation, I'm sorry, my ring light's a little bit crazy, but um, everyone who's like sort of lacking in motivation, I'm hoping that the energy sort of can push us to that next
Yeah.
level. Whereas also people who are already impulsive, just to really hone it in, and people who are a little bit more like homebody or like, stuck or cemented, it's about taking those risks and making those changes and not being as stubborn because, as we said earlier, if you're stubborn, it'll be pulled from underneath you and no one wants that. So,
For
okay,
sure.
I like that. It's definitely, and I hope people are taking notes because these are really good things to think about, to prepare yourself with. This is what prediction videos are good for, is prepare yourself for what's to come so that you're not sort of shocked. Okay, amazing. Let's move on to prediction number 3.
So there's kind of two that go hand in hand. There's a few planets that are moving into the fiery sign of Aries that used to be in the sign of Pisces, right? That's Neptune and Saturn. And these planets are important because they've both been sitting next to each other in Pisces for a while, and then they're going to move into Aries.
Okay.
So Pisces is all about like intuition, spirituality. It's also about like dreams and fantasy, but also, and Neptune rules this sign. Neptune is a planet that is the same thing about like dreams and possibility and fantasy, but it's also about distortion of reality,
Mm.
right? Illusion, disillusionment very often, like rose-colored glasses, seeing potential versus
Um,
what is. And there's another planet that's been sitting next to it in the same sign that's been Saturn, and Saturn is the opposite of this. It's the reality check planet. That's why a lot of people
mm,
have reality checks during their Saturn return. It's the
right.
planet of like lessons, maturity, practicality. It's like, all right, you got to take this seriously now. So it's almost like, okay, well, this is the dream, but realistically, what does it take to achieve this dream?
Hmm.
The reason why I say this is because these two planets are not just shifting signs, but they're shifting signs together within a few months period, within like 3 months of each other.
Hmm.
This is a big deal because they're not just going from water, they're going to fire. And the other thing about this is Saturn sitting next to Neptune causes distortion of reality.
Mm,
So this is like, you don't really know if what you're seeing is real. And now, on top of that, in the sign of Aries, remember, now it's impulsive. So now people are going to start acting impulsively based on maybe the distortion that they're seeing, which
mhm,
can ruffle some feathers, right? So it's like the need for discernment is going to be more important than ever before. Just this year, I've had some people send me videos of like, oh, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? And I'm like, that's AI. That's AI. Like, and
yeah.
they're like, oh my God, I thought that was real. Now imagine if you're seeing videos that you think are real, and now you have a fire lit up under you to take action because it's in a fiery, impulsive, action-oriented sign like Aries, and now you're taking action again on a distorted version of reality that is not actually reality.
Mm.
At the same time, when Neptune moves into Aries, I've been calling this kind of like, which is happening at the end of March, by the way, March 30th to be exact. I've been kind of saying this is like people waking up from their slumber. Like in
Hmm.
Pisces, it's been like, oh, I've been dreaming, 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 dreaming. And then suddenly it's in Aries and somebody wakes you up from your dream and you're like, oh shit, this is real. Again, this is reality. This is what it
Hmm.
is. So this is going to look like a lot more people waking up spiritually, a lot more people realizing we do live in a matrix, a lot more spiritual awakenings. However, because it's in Aries, Aries is also not just a fiery sign, it's the warrior.
Mm.
It's ruled by Mars. Mars is the god of war. So what I mean by this is there tends to be a lot more aggression with this placement and a lot
Hmm.
more anger. So when you think back to what it felt like when you woke up, and this is similar to what you said earlier, there is a lot for a lot of people, this could look like anger that comes out of nowhere where, holy shit, everything I thought my whole life
Yeah.
is not real. Who else has been lying to me? What else has been lying to me? Now I'm
Hmm.
angry about it. And
Hmm.
on top of that, you have this
Mm.
impulsive energy backing it a little bit. So the good side of this is going to bring way more awakenings than ever
Right.
before. The bad side of this is people may be impulsively reacting to
Yep.
it, and it may
Hmm.
not be the best manifestation of that awakening.
Right. So I guess, this really big emphasis on disillusionment, but then waking up from the disillusion. And then part of the problem with all of those energies mixed together is you move into this realm where it's like, I'm waking up from everything that I was disillusioned to, but now I believe that this is true, which could maybe not be true. And then there's like
Oh,
anger and action because there's like, it's like the layers of disillusionment, right? And I
totally.
think that because you've talked to me a lot about this, this thing in particular, this disillusionment,
Yeah.
in the new year, and the fire and the anger and the action that could be taken around the confusion with that. And, my mind immediately goes to AI. I mean, if everything we see online is fake or AI or an illusion, then what is real anymore? And then you bring that over to the sort of fake alien invasion space as well. And once again, there's this sort of question. And I'm hoping that by the end of next year, or maybe in the next few years, we get to a point where no one knows what is real or not real anymore, that we, not that we give up on the online world space, but we actually crave more intimate in-person connections. Because if you don't know what is real, then the only thing that's real is your feelings, your perceptions, your interpretations. And like, let's get back to ourselves in that way. And I think that we are going to see probably a solid 3 years of a lot of this disillusionment and confusion. And I know that these planetary cycles go on for quite a while, but yeah, I think that we will get to a place, hopefully, definitely in our lifetime, where we can say, uh, I now can't discern what I'm seeing. So all I can discern is what I'm feeling. And I'm excited for that, but I think it is going to be a lot of chaos and confusion before we get there.
I also think the feeling may be anger for a lot of people, and they're not going to know
Yeah.
how to handle that. Like we had an Aries full moon this past October on October 17th, 2024, and I saw honestly, I saw a side of myself that I was surprised by. And I knew the astrology, so I was like, oh, there's nothing will surprise me. I saw a side, I was like, oh, I don't know where that anger came from. So
That's funny. Yeah.
right. And I had so many people messaging me and DMing me. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God, I got into a fight with this person. I was so angry. So like
Uh,
it's also that like the emotions that may come up may even surprise you at what the
right.
emotion is. And a
Right.
lot of that is like a piggybacking into the next prediction, which is about
Mhm.
spirituality. The
Mm.
nodes in the sky are going to switch into Pisces and Virgo. And I don't want to like spend a ton of time talking about this because I could talk about it for like an hour. But essentially, the north node in the sky is like direction of where we want to be headed towards as a collective for the next year and a half.
Okay.
And the irony is the North Node is moving into Pisces while all these other planets are moving into Aries. So
Wow.
because the direction in the sky of like purpose that we're moving into is around more spirituality, is around more dreams.
Ah,
The other energy is contradicting this in a little bit of way. So this is what this is all adding to the
yeah.
distortion, right? Because there's like
Yes, yes,
dichotomies between these two different
yes.
like planetary alignments and stuff. And what that could look like is when the nodes switch, which is actually one of the first things that happens in the new year on January 11th.
Hmm.
What it means is we're going to be forced to really realize how much our mental health and our spiritual health is important. So, what I've been saying
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of clients and on some of my videos has been that we, most of us, not all of us, but we've been making our physical health a priority for a lot of us, right? Like for some people that go to the gym every day or they move their body every day or they're
Hmm.
watching what they eat. There's been so much emphasis on the physical, the physical, the physical, right?
Yeah.
Next year, with this planetary shift, we're going to start to notice when we haven't been doing the same for our mental health and our spiritual health. We've been making our physical body a priority, but we haven't been making the focus on our mental health and our spiritual health in the same way, on our soul health in the same way. And next year is really going to highlight that. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why this is so important is because two things. One, we're going to notice that when we're not taking care of our mental health and our spiritual health, it is going to affect our physical body. Number one. And number two, when we're not tapping in to our spirituality, to our intuition, to our mental health, how the hell are we going to make any sense of this distorted reality we're going to be in? The only
Right.
way you're going to be able to discern what is real and what isn't is by listening to your gut. How
Mm-hmm.
can you do that if you don't even listen to your gut?
Yep,
You're not
exactly.
practicing, right? So next year
Yeah.
is going to be not just forcing spiritual awakening, it's also going to be forcing people to, I'm using forcing lightly, but it's also going to feel like a force for a lot of people to like connect to our less analysis in the head and more going with the flow and
Mhm.
trusting your intuition and your gut and like what is feeling. So even if like everyone around you is telling you this and everything makes sense on paper here and every video you watch and every podcast you listen to is saying this, but your gut is like, I don't connect with that. Something's telling me something's off here. You're
Mhm.
gonna have to you have to listen to your gut,
Yep.
even if everything else is telling you otherwise.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's really good. And I feel like just you mentioned earlier too, like the quickening of things too, things that took years. So, I mean, I know just observing my own clients in the past and people around me, if you're not listening to your body, if you're not doing the spiritual, like the saging and the white light and like the spiritual maintenance, that can culminate if you're not, doing the inner child work or the sacral chakra healing, if you're not doing just the inner healing, then that will culminate over many years into a dis-ease or disease, right, in the body. But like you're mentioning, this quickening, it's like if you're not listening, you will be hit hard. And I already got like
And to be hit hard faster, like it won't take you
much much
months.
faster, yeah, and I definitely saw that in 2024. It was like this whole past year, every time something would happen and I would react in a way which usually was like not a surrender. It's like, I'll push through this, I can do this, I can keep going, and every time I kept going and kept pushing, it just the situation would just get worse and worse. And so finally I'd be like, okay, fine, I surrender, and then the situation would resolve itself. So I do feel like I've already been aware of that, and I know that it's in my nature to like go 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 and do all the things and spin all the plates and like be the thing for everyone, and this idea of like perfection, and I don't know, it's not like a control, but it's like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. And even you mentioned, you're like, well, 2025 could be hard on you if you continue to be stubborn. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna
I
try
did say that
and be
too.
more flexible. So yeah, okay, so that's
I'm also
incredible.
very stubborn, so this was the pot calling the kettle
Yeah,
black.
yeah,
Whatever the thing is,
absolutely right.
I'm the message I'm telling you is also one I need to hear myself, right?
Yes. Okay. All right. So that's good. All good things, especially like once again, just how to prepare for 2025. All right. What do you got next? What else?
So a lot of that is also with the intuition, comes with learning to go with the flow more. Because when all of
Yeah.
these changes are happening, for the people that are the planners, myself included, by the way, okay, next year may feel like well, I had a plan, it didn't go according to plan.
That's right, because you mentioned to me just privately, expect the unexpected. What planet is that again? What's happening?
That's Uranus. We haven't even talked about that yet. Or Uranus, call it. Yeah.
Expect the unexpected. So go with the flow, like with the
Go with,
unexpected,
I mean,
it's
that's not just that planet. There's a lot of,
surrender.
but it's really about, again, surrender. The nodes moving, like I said earlier, the North Node going to Pisces, it's really going to be a lot of energy around like faith versus fear.
Mm,
If you're trying to control and plan something, is it because you don't have faith that things will work out?
right. Oh, I like that. Yeah, faith
Right?
versus
Where
fear.
is the control and the planning coming
Yeah.
from? Is it like, well, I have everything in place because I don't trust that it'll work out if I don't have the plan in place. But maybe the universe has another plan for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you didn't quite consider. You get into, a hiccup here or with someone else, and you're like, well, that's not what I thought was going to happen. But then something beautiful becomes of that
Right.
situation that you never would have expected, right? Like we hear stories about this all the time. A lot of this is the whole year, and this is just starting next year, right? Is really teaching us, especially, and the reason why it's going to be hard for a lot of people, myself included, and also you,
Mm-hmm.
is because we are, as human beings, we are naturally stubborn. And some of us are more stubborn than other people, but in general, we are stubborn. So sometimes we have to learn lessons the hard way because we don't always like to pivot and change until we learn lessons the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whatever that saying is, I'm totally going to butcher it, but it's like when the comfortable becomes so uncomfortable, you have nothing better to do than to like change it, right? Or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that thing is. I totally butchered that. But essentially what I'm saying is the more we can actually release our attachment to the plan, the better off you'll be. So it's about learning to become more adaptable, more mutable, more going with the flow. And for those of you who have mutable placements in your chart and are immutable signs, you're like, well, I've already been doing that my whole life. This is actually going to be like, you're already 2 steps ahead of us because you're like, well, I just go with the flow all the time anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
have more patience with the people that are learning and adapting to try to be more like this because they're going to have a much harder time being more adaptable and mutable and going with the flow.
Mm. Oh man, all I'm hearing is like, you're gonna get challenged. Like, but I really like just the faith versus fear because I kind of like using the word trust, but obviously the FF makes it more memorable. Trust versus fear. Like, am I doing this because I am trusting the flow and trusting, or am I doing this out of fear? And I think just in general, as like a naturally anxious person, part of me over planning is trying to plan for all of the worst case scenarios, which is fear. Like you're doing things out of fear. So I'm truly excited to be challenged in this way and to really just be in more surrender and have more trust. And 2024 helped me with that a lot. But
I
yeah,
mean, you
no, I
had
think this is good.
baby, which I think also really helped you with that. Like you could plan
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
possible with
Yeah,
baby,
it's
but
true. It's true.
that'll
But
happen.
now I'm like, planning out all of like his meals and all of the things that I need to plan for him. So yeah, but yeah, that's really good. Okay, awesome. What's next? And are we at the end of our list or?
We're not yet, but let me
Okay,
know how we're doing on time, and I'm happy to
cool.
wrap things up
No.
sooner.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Uranus,
Yeah.
move switching signs. This is a planet of disruption, surprise, shock, unexpected things. Um, like even the way this planet orbits around the sun is a little bit rebellious and disruptive, right? Like all
Mm,
the planets orbit horizontally. Uranus goes up and down, side to side. It's like, fuck all you planets. I'm going to do my own thing. It has a
mm,
very like rebellious nature. When people have like Uranian cycles in their
mm-hmm.
charts, when they go through like a midlife crisis
Wow.
and they like dye their hair blue and get a sports car and all these other things because they're just it's like a very rebellious, like not just rebellious, but like shocking rebellious energy.
Mm-hmm.
So this planet of like shock, unexpected things, that's why I said expect the unexpected,
Yep.
is moving in from, again, an earth grounded sign like Taurus and moving into Gemini, an air sign. And
Mm,
Gemini is also about information, technology, and it's
mm,
about, again, so you have this planet of like shock and surprise moving into a planet that is all moving into a sign that is all about communication, information. So this could be like disruption in technology. This
yep.
could be disruption in communication and technology. It could be shocking and surprising things in regards to this area. It's also, I will say this, and I don't want to get too much into this because I know we're not going to have a lot of time, but historically, this planet, historically, whenever Uranus was in Gemini, okay, By the way, the last time this planet switched signs was in 2018. So it hasn't switched signs in quite a long time, in
Wow.
several years, right? The last iterations of this planet, this specific planet being in this specific sign, the
Hmm.
United States has gone to war every single time. So we had the Revolutionary War, where we broke free from the British. We had
Hmm.
the US Civil War, and then this is also when the United States got involved in World War II. All of those time periods had this planetary alignment. Okay. So, on top of that, we're adding this distortion of reality of like what we're absorbing on social media, on the news. We don't even know what's
Hmm.
real. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this looks like a plan or initiation to go into war based on misinformation or based on
Hmm.
distortion of
Right.
reality that we think is real, but it's not really what's going on.
Interesting. And I just want to add to that too. I feel like, and I might just get like shit on for this, but I do feel like the majority of the wars that are happening and that have happened and that have centered around America, especially, but just in the world in general, I feel like there's already so much misinformation that we're given, like, propaganda, mass media, like a lot of that got kicked up in World War II. And now I think that the disinformation and the propaganda is going to continue, but I think for the first time we're going to be aware of it, or at
Yeah.
least the majority of people are going to start to be aware of it, which is going to cause a massive disruption. And then with that fire, a lot of anger, right? So, okay,
Well, yeah,
yeah. So expect the
reactions for
unexpected. And then there's a potential for, could be a civil war,
there's also
could be
a
the
lot of
threat of a
money.
war. Yeah.
Like people think that the government doesn't want to go to war, but there's a lot of money in war.
Yeah. Of course. Of course there is. Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. You got anything else?
Yeah, so this because of this disruption in knowledge and information and technology, and top of that, Pluto moving into Aquarius, which Pluto is a sign that is also the big revealer, right? It
Mhm.
exposes the truth, what's been hidden that needs to come to the surface. When Pluto moved into Capricorn back in 2008, Capricorn ruled governments, banks, corporations, right? The housing market. Pluto moved in there in 2008. It exposed
Yeah.
what was just not going well with the banking system.
Right.
We had the housing crisis, the stock market crisis. That was on purpose. Pluto came in and exposed the truth, right?
Mm.
Where there's flaws here, and this needs to be fixed, right?
Hmm.
That's what Pluto does. Now in Aquarius, Aquarius is also a sign similar to Gemini. It's all about technology, innovation, progression. So Pluto and Aquarius, on top of this other Uranus moving into Gemini, is going to expose things in technology
Mm.
that are good, but also that are bad. So this year we got a taste of that. We've seen massive increase in like cyber attacks, cyber hacks.
Yeah.
Um, I personally, there was just I personally experienced this myself with a few different situations, but this will only continue to increase next year.
Yeah.
And this is not to fearmonger. This is obviously to prepare everybody. So right, we had that whole disruption thing where I don't remember the system that got hacked or went down, but like people were stuck at airports for days because they
Yeah.
couldn't even take their
Yeah.
flights, right? I'm blanking on like what that was at this time,
Yeah.
but we're gonna see that's only going to increase and become
Hmm.
more prevalent of like where we haven't taken the right precautions and safety in our technology through our innovation and enhancement in technology that like could disrupt things. So things like
Okay.
again, more cyber attacks, more hacks, more disruptions in even how we get our information and technology.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this is like, well, suddenly you can't even get into your account or
Right.
there's going to be a lot more revealing of like where technology, we're not as protected with our technology as we think we are.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, side note, I just ended up getting a something called a hardware wallet for my crypto. I know that Nat got you into crypto recently. So, but yeah, I have this weird feeling. I'm like, what if Coinbase gets hacked? Like, what if basically the exchange gets hacked? In my mind, having your crypto in a hardware wallet is kind of like taking the money from the bank and putting it in your physical wallet, like taking that $20 bill and putting it in your wallet. Whereas if we just have all our money in the banks and we're like, oh, yeah, it's going to be safe and protected, and some shit goes down and you lose all those numbers on the screen, just like crypto, right? So I will just put it out there for any crypto holders, make sure you have a physical hardware wallet that you keep in a um what is it called? One of those bags. I have like so many of them. Anyway, it's like a bag that protects from like radiation or attacks or whatever. Forget what it's called, but yeah, keep it in there and just keep it safe because I just don't know. I don't really trust
Like an
any.
EMF protector bag?
Yeah, but there's a name for it. It's evading me. I'm sure everyone's gonna be like typing, it's this, it's this. Anyway,
I can't
but
remember
yeah.
there, so but I know what you're talking about,
So
yeah.
yeah, you want to be like just extra, like look at, we had that huge credit card hack just not too
Yeah.
long ago. I had to lock all of my accounts. So just take a look at the technology you have in your life, what you utilize, and ask yourself, what is secure, what is not secure. I also use a super like encrypted, protected password manager too, which really helps with everything. And you can change your passwords like on a dime. So there's certain things to put into place to really help with all of that. So, okay, wow. All right. Well, 2025. Anything else? Did we cover pretty much all of it?
Most of it, but obviously there's going
Okay.
to be increase. One last thing that I want to
Yeah.
say. Increased innovation also through all the technology
Okay.
glitches. There's going to be a lot more innovation. Like if you think the AI and the Elon Musk Tesla robots are just the begin, like it's just the beginning. Like we're
Mm,
going to see a lot more innovation moving forward. This is also around jobs and careers and fields. So like it's possible that like the jobs that are going to exist a year from now and 5 years from now and 10 years from now are going to be so innovative like we don't even know what those are going to look like yet,
hmm.
right? So not to have so much fear around the innovation. It's kind of like what I've been saying a lot is it's kind of like when the internet first came out, people were freaking out. I'm gonna lose my job.
Totally.
It's gonna happen and all this stuff. And then the internet brought so much more opportunity
Yep.
to work, brought so many more jobs. There's like people were
Yep.
able to have virtual businesses and all these things now. So this is kind of like the new era we're stepping into for the
Okay.
next few decades of like a lot more innovation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be scary innovation, or you don't have to be afraid of the innovation
Right.
because there could be more possibility and more growth just because like, so there's so much fear on AI is going to take over my job, right?
Yes.
That's why I'm talking about this. It
Right.
is possible that will happen, but it's also possible that through this innovation, there's going to be a whole new scope of work and a whole new field of possibility that like you're going to start doing this job next instead, or it's going to
Hmm.
piggyback off of the current job that you're doing. So it's not just about that. And the last thing I want to say
Hmm.
is I'm also calling next year a year of radical accountability.
Mm, love that.
Because with all of these planetary shifts, especially in all this Aries energy, Aries is very much of like, I am, who am I? I'm the warrior. What do I need? And I don't mean from like a
Mm,
narcissistic, egotistical point. It means like a lot of people are going to start to realize and this goes along with Pluto moving into Aquarius as well, of like, they have the power, which means you've always had the power, right?
hmm.
So a lot of this is about accountability of like you have the power to change your life anytime you want, which means you've always had the power to change your own life whenever you wanted.
Yep.
And I'm not for those people who are going to come at me in the comments, I'm not saying that like the people that are really born into like really terrible like circumstances that they could have just like thought their way out of it.
Right.
I know that like there's so many things that are out of our control, and I want to put that disclaimer on here. But a lot of this is more targeted towards the people that have like a victim mentality
Hmm.
of like, I can't do anything because this happened to me, that happened to me, that happened to me. My
Right.
parents did this happened. My sister hates me, so I can never switch jobs. Or
Right.
this, I can't control my own life because of this, because of this. So a lot of this is going to highlight where you, again, very similar to what I said in the beginning of this call,
Hmm.
where you've been giving your power away to everyone else and everything else around you. This year is really going to show that you and only you are accountable for yourself and your own life, which means you cannot keep blaming everyone else around you for why things are showing up in your life the way that they are. And
Hmm.
again, that's why I said the disclaimer. This doesn't, I know there's a caveat here that some people cannot help the families they're born into, the environments they're born into, and the dynamics that they're born into. So this goes with a little bit of like a gray area as well.
Cool. You had a couple of orbs show up there. The
Yeah.
first one, I was like, I wonder if that's just a dust particle, but then another one came, and as it like came closer to the camera, it actually glitched you a little bit. So that's an indication that there's energy behind it. So that was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Interesting.
could be like spirit
Well, I
guides
definitely
or
see a
something.
dust particle here. So actually, I don't even think it's dust particle. I think it's like fabric from my sweater coming off or something. That's just
Just
like
like
floating
plumes of
there.
like, yeah.
Like
Um,
it's lint floating
yeah,
in the
yeah. Spiritual lint. Okay, amazing. I actually feel just not apprehensive, but I just feel more prepared, I think, with all of this information. And it's going to be really interesting to watch how the world responds to this. I think for the majority of this community, we have been showing up, we have been doing the work, but there
Mhm.
has been a struggle there. So just know that if you've been really challenged or struggling lately, your life is going to be a lot better than everyone else's life. I can't say that it's going to be the best ever, but I think that a lot of people are going to get a very hard reality check. And the biggest thing I want to let everyone know is just focus on you, focus on your own mission, focus on your own checks and balances, show up for you. The world has to crash and burn. And I think with a disruptor like Trump in office, even though what is office, what is the puppeteering, what is America, like who really fucking cares? But at the end of the day, the old system has to crash and burn. I think that he's going to bring about that crash and burn. I think we can probably all agree on that, no matter what side you're on. And so try not to get sucked into the crashing and the burning around you and try and just focus on you because you can create the new earth reality from your own home. You don't have to participate in the chaos around you because you've already been participating and showing up for the chaos inside of you so that you can better manage what's to come. So, yeah, so I think we're exactly where we need to be, and I'm really excited for 2025. I think that there's going to be, as you said, some massive shifts that we haven't seen in well over a decade. So,
I mean, probably decades. I would say,
decades, multiple
I mean,
decades.
the overall theme is really so much about power and empowerment and like where
Hmm.
we've been giving that away. And it's interesting that you said that about Trump because I think I said this to you recently. A lot of next year is going to show us where we've even given our power away to like who's in office,
Yep,
right? Like,
absolutely.
oh, this person, I want this person to get elected because they're going to make the change, or I want this person to get elected because they're going to make the change. Next year,
Yep.
so much of the astrology of next year is irrelevant of who's
Yes.
no matter what,
Yep.
regardless of who's in office, because it needs to happen, because it's
Yep.
going to continue to show you where we, as people, as humanity, have still been giving our power away to this one person,
Yes.
this one candidate, because we think they're going to be the change, when in
Yep.
fact, we're the ones who are supposed to be the change.
Exactly. And that's what I said leading up to the election.
Yeah.
Guys, it doesn't matter, because ultimately we have higher contracts. So, okay, amazing. Once again, I just want to remind everyone, Asha is going to be doing monthly astrology prediction videos on my website starting January 2025. So if you want more of a deep dive and more specifics per month and sort of what to look out for, head on over to my website, elizabethapril.com, to check those out. And then on top of that, if you want a one-on-one session with Asha, which I highly recommend, please go over to her website, which is asharose.com, and all of her links and social medias. She's got amazing videos that are also going to update you on her socials. So please go follow her, check her out, and we'll be hearing from you every single month in 2025. So I'm excited
Hey,
about that. Thank you so, so much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll have you back soon.
thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.